Hi guys, my name is Sabrina and welcome back to my channel. Today it's time for a mermaid drawing. I've been looking forward to this so much, so let's get on to it. It is MerMay. Finally, I have been waiting for this for so incredibly long. It feels like I've been looking forward to making this drawing for so long, and I'm so excited to finally start and show you guys what I came up with. Now the thing is, I am unable right now to do a daily or a weekly mermaid drawing, and I hope that I can change that next time, that I can at least make like weekly mermaid videos or something along that region. But for this time, for this year, I'll stick with just this one. And I do feel like I gave it my best. I did some research in how to draw the things I wanted to draw and how to improve myself, and I think even looking at the sketch over here shows that. And I'll put in a comparison picture of last year so you guys can see where I came from and how it looks now. I thought it'd be nice to see anyway. And I really enjoy seeing the differences. I see things that are a little bit similar, but also a lot of growth and a lot of changes. And for this sketch, oh my goodness, it was such a pleasure to do, and it did take a while, and I did print it out in A4 because I felt like with the amount of stuff that was going on in this piece, it needed to be printed on a bigger size paper. So that's why you don't see me with like an A5 as I usually do, but it's just A4 this time. So I really like it. I worked with the background as well. I wasn't 100% sure on what to do, and then I kind of came across stingrays on the internet, and I was like, wow, that would be amazing if I could just put in stingrays. And I put in 3 stingrays because it's kind of what I was taught when I was doing my photography and stuff, and just as a hobby, not professionally or anything. But odd numbers work best, so that's what I ended up with. I ended up with a beautiful mermaid with 3 stingrays, and I am so happy with this piece. Everything about this piece felt so incredibly good. And with this background, I'm just going to show you guys real quick. I don't want to linger on this for too long because it was quite a big background to do, and of course markers ran out again. They always seem to run out, so I need to find something to fix that. I ordered refills anyway, so that should help a lot. So I am just going to show you guys quite fast how I did the background. I've used 3 colors for it, 3 different blues, because I kind of wanted to show the depth of the water in there as well. And I know it goes to the darker blue quite fast, but I really like how that looks. I'm quite happy with that decision there. And I'm going over with blue pencils as well to give some depth to everything and some shadow areas. So you can see me underneath the stingrays, I put like a blue shadow there as well, just to accentuate that they're there and they're just not floating randomly in blue sea. But yeah, it had to be obvious. I had to make the shadows there, and I end up doing that around the mermaid as well. And I quite like how that looks. It's not all the way around her, it's like mostly one side and then a little bit on the other side, but I think it does really help. And what I also tried to go for in this drawing, I wanted her to have a tiny bit more of a story. Now usually I don't think as much about stories when it comes to my characters that I draw, unless it's fan art, and obviously they have their own story then, so I don't have to think about that. I just have to draw the character, how they are in whatever movie or show they appear in. But for original characters like this mermaid, I think I should consider that more often. I think it gives some more background to the actual character, and it might show in the drawing that I'm making. So what my idea was for this one, I did not just want to draw any old regular mermaid. I wanted to draw a young lady. Well, that's kind of what I do anyway, isn't it? But I wanted her to be like a princess basically. So that's why you see like the crown on her head, come up as well, and I'll be coloring everything in the same kind of style. So that's why she has the crown on her head. So she's going to be like a princess mermaid or a mermaid princess. And at first, for the background, for that reason, I was thinking maybe I can draw like the castle in the background with like silhouettes of other mermaids swimming around, and I thought that might be a nice idea. But then, is the background going to draw too much away from the actual drawing? So that is what I was thinking, but I ended up with the stingrays because I figured the background should not take away from the actual picture that I want to draw from the foreground, and I wanted to keep it relatively simple but still there. So that is kind of my story for this piece, my princess mermaid, and I quite like that I did that. I'm quite happy with that decision there. So I colored in her skin tone, and I can only pick from like either light or very dark, and I always tend to I always tend to lean towards the first one, and I just have to get refills before I can do other colors again, because I just don't have enough right now. But I used a few different colors, so I used my E00 and I built from there. So I used the shadows and the blush as well, of course. And before I would forget, I wanted to immediately put in the pencils as well, and I really do think that helps. If I didn't do that, I either would forget, or I know myself, I would get too impatient at the end and then finish it and not be happy with the look of the piece. So I did not want to run that risk. So once that was done, I went on to her crown and the stingrays, and they will have the same kind of colors going on. So her crown has the lighter colors, especially around the edge, and then to make it seem as if they're round, because I do want them to like seem as if they're round, I put in the darker colors in the center. And they really do match the stingrays right now. So for the stingrays, I'm using the two lightest colors that I have for the bottom of the stingray. Now, one thing I want to explain here is, so when I did the first stingray, I went over with the lightest color over the entire thing, instead of just the bottom of the stingray, which I wanted to have the lightest color. So went over the entire thing with the lightest color, and then only shaded it in like the bottom area with the colors that I want to use for that, used the pencils accordingly, and then I continued on to the top of the stingray, which is using the two darker colors I've picked for that. So done that, went over with pencil there as well, and then I finished it off with the white gel pen dots, which I think is a really amazing look to it. I'm so happy I've done that. I wasn't quite sure how to give them a pattern basically, and I really did want them to have a pattern, so I'm really happy that I went with like the gel pen dot route. So that was a good decision, I think. But then, because I've used the lightest color as a base for the entire stingray, I felt like I had to do that for every single stingray over here, because I did not want to risk a mismatch of colors going on. Now, not every stingray in the real world is the same. They're all a little bit different. They have a little bit of a different color, maybe different patterns. So I suppose it like shouldn't have mattered, but I wanted this drawing to be one piece. I did not want things to look a little off here and there, so that's why I tried to do it like as much the same as possible. So I used the same technique in every single stingray, and to be honest, I'm quite happy that I did that. I don't regret that decision at all. I think that was quite a good decision there, and yeah, I'm really happy with how they turned out. They're earthy, and it kind of made me realize that I wanted to do the same kind of color scheme for the entire drawing. So the only thing that is going to be really bright and is supposed to stand out a lot is going to be the hair. As you can see, I've used pink. I'm not a pink person at all, but I felt like this drawing, that this girl really needed some bright pink hair. And it started out with like cotton candy kind of pink, and I really like that. But I went over it with, well, I have 4 different markers in total for the hair. And one of them is very, very bright. It's kind of almost fluorescent. That's how it felt like to me anyway. So that's why I went over it with like a darker, more muted kind of one as well that I had. And I think that was the darkest. It's not the darkest that I have, but it's the darkest kind of pink that made sense in this piece. So done that. It took a lot of work to get the hair sorted, but it ends up looking really nice, especially compared to the blue of the background and then the colors of the stingrays. And I've made her eyes blue. I felt like that was the nicest option for her. I could have picked brown as well, but then there's so much brown going on already. And the water actually made me think that, yeah, I think I should make her eyes blue, like the water itself as well. I think that would look best. So that's what I went for. And I tried to shade in the hair as good as I could possibly make it. It was a little bit tricky sometimes because the colors are so different and you do see like the lines where I went over, but I made it work. And in the end I did go over it with the lightest colors as well, so you can see me going over with the lightest marker there and try and blend everything in a little bit anyway. So you can see, especially in like the fold of her hair where her hair flows back, that the really bright marker really stands out. And because it stands out so much, I had to go over it. I felt like I had to go over it with the darker marker to just tone it down a little bit, to just desaturate that a little bit. And I'm really glad that I've done that. I think it works and it does really help with the color scheme in itself. I think it would have been too bright otherwise, and I want to say too unrealistic, but this is not a realistic piece anyway. That is not my style, but I'm really happy that I've done that. I think it took a lot of time, but I really like the overall look of the hair. And I've made a lot of hair, you guys. I don't think any of my other characters have this much hair. I feel like because she's a mermaid, it had to be flowy and big, because when I envision hair and water, it just goes everywhere. And sure, it might not be as full and beautiful like this, but I really do like how hair looks in water, especially when it's really long hair. And I wanted to exaggerate that basically in this piece, and I think that worked, so I'm really happy with that. And I did find as well that I made like a few tiny little mistakes with coloring in this piece, and I fixed that with the colors blender. No, not with the colors blender actually, because it ended up on a blue background. So I had to go over it with like the lightest blue that I have and try and blend that back. So a little bit of pink went over the line there, and I had to use that blue to blend it back. And I really hoped it wouldn't really show, that the color would build up, because that's what they do as well. Colors build up. So I tried to hide that mistake there, but I think I managed. And then I used another method to refill my marker, and that's all the way at the end. And I don't know if you'll see it. You might, if you pay attention at the end there, you might see that the bubbles over here at the left of the hair. But I used a different method to refill my marker, and I might make a new video on that, like refilling markers and just handy little things you can do yourself that are very super convenient and less expensive than maybe buying official things from Copic. But basically what happened is the marker was so full that everything came out at once and it went over the edge of the bubble, and that was a big whoops moment. And I hope I never make that mistake again. It happened a few times in the past because I got markers that were really filled like that. And while yeah, you're getting more ink in your markers, it is not convenient if you have to be super wary of that, because it can very quickly ruin a piece, especially if they're browns. So about the other colors that I'm using, she's got like her cape on, and that's kind of like the princess bit of the outfit that I wanted her to have there as well. And I've made that in a similar style as the stingray. So she's going to be like a stingray mermaid princess basically. That is what I wanted to go for. At first I considered maybe giving her a green tail, because I figured it might look nice with like the pink hair, but then I was like, it might be just too much color going on there. It might just be too much of everything going on there. And I think if I would make one cohesive piece, that would be much better. So that's why I ended up with going for the same colors as I've used for the Stingray. So for her big fin at the side and later on the big fin at the bottom, you'll see me going in with the lightest colors, and for like the actual tail, I'm using the two darker colors. So the front is going to be the lighter color, and then in the back she's going to have the darker color with the dots basically. So made that decision, and I'm super happy I've done that. I again immediately went over with like the pencils to make sure there was some more shading going on. And because this was black on a very dark area, it was kind of hard to see at times how the shading would end up like. But I had to do it because I had to complete the piece with like the gel pen as well. And I cannot go over gel pen with pencils because it will just scrape it away. And then I have to redo all the dots again. So I did not want to take that risk. Refused to do that. So that's why I did things the way I did there. And with the fin at the bottom as well, I love how those colors come together, because the colors, the two lightest colors that I've used they're similar, but they're still quite different. So you can really see that when it comes to the big fin at the bottom there. You see that there's a brown, and then the other one is more like gray bluish, and you really see the difference there. And I accentuated that with like the pencils too. I think it looks beautiful. I love it. It's like the water kind of reflects through the fins there too. And I know I did not make it like fully transparent, but I don't think I would have liked that. I really like this version of it. So right now it is time to fill in my bubbles, and this is where the mistake happens. So I used two different blues basically to finish those and to end the piece. So that's what I've done. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and my mermaid for MerMay, and I thank you all for watching. Thanks, and I'll catch you next time. Bye!